MUGABO the Mighty. Once upon a time, there lived a widower in central Rwanda. He had refused to remarry for fear that a stepmother would mistreat his children. His friends and relatives had abandoned him, saying that they could not trust a man who did not have a wife. But the man stuck to his conviction until all his children became mature and self-reliant. One day, he brought his children together and told them, "Your mother died when you were still young, but I decided to stay a widower because I feared that a stepmother would mistreat you. Now that you are big enough to fend for yourselves, I want to know what you would like to do for me in return." Each, except the last born, said what he would do for his beloved father. When the last born was asked to say something, he kept quiet because he did not know what to say. After a few months, the old man called his sons again. He slaughtered a fat bull and carefully roasted its meat for that particular occasion. He hoped that his last-born would then say what he would do for him, but still the young man did not have anything to say. So his brothers got very angry with him, started beating him, and even chased him out of that family. As he was allowed to take with him whatever he wanted, he collected some pieces of roasted meat, packed them well, and left. Whenever he got hungry, he would exchange some meat for other food. And life went on until the meat was finished. He tried to persevere, but his patience ran out after 3 days without eating. He finally decided to look for employment. He asked a certain man to employ him. The man asked him, "What is your name, and what are you able to do?" "I am called MUGABO the Mighty, and the only job that I can do for you is to carry your tobacco pipe," said the young man. The man told him that he could not employ somebody just to carry his pipe. He advised him to try his luck elsewhere. Later that day, he met another man to whom he told the same thing, and the man offered him a job. The young man was happy. For some months, the lad ate and slept well. Then one day, his employer asked him, "Hey, what did you say your name was?" "MUGABO the Mighty, sir." "Are you sure you are mighty?" asked the employer. "Oh, yes. No man in this entire region can match me," answered the young man. "Does that include me and the king?" asked the employer. "Absolutely. I am mightier than both of you." "Then I must go and report this to the king," threatened the employer. "Go right ahead, sir," replied the young man. When they reached the king's palace, the employer said what the young man had told him. The king asked MUGABO whether that was true, and the young man confirmed that it was true. Then the king said, "Remain here so that I may confirm whether you are really mightier than any of us in this region." One fine morning, the king asked MUGABO to clear a well that was infested by dangerous snakes and surrounded by a thick forest. That forest was inhabited by fierce animals such as lions, leopards, and buffaloes. MUGABO went there fearlessly and cleared the forest and the well. He killed any animal that approached him. After 1 week of hard work, he sent a message to the king to come and inspect the well. He added that if he wished, he could bring his cows to drink water from it. The king told his herdsmen to take cows to the well. After the cows had drunk water, MUGABO escorted them back to the king's palace. The herdsmen reported how beautiful the well was, and the king was happy but not fully contented. So, he thought of a more difficult task. The king asked the young man to follow his men and carry out any orders that would be given to him. Together, they walked until they reached a hard rock. They asked MUGABO to get firewood from that rock. They gave him an axe and told him that it should remain unscratched after the exercise. They left him there and went back to the king's palace. After they had left, the rock was struck by lightning. Immediately, a snake emerged and tied together the broken pieces of rock. The lightning struck again and placed the load on the young man's head. Then, a supernatural wind blew him and dropped him in the king's palace. Those who had given him that task arrived several hours later. They were all exhausted and too tired to talk. The king was amazed, especially when he observed that Mugabo looked fresh while the axe was unscathed. A few months later, the king called for him again and gave him another test. He told him that there was a field far away that needed planting. He added, "The field is already cleared. I just want you to sow the whole of it with finger millet." He gave him servants to help him carry the finger millet for sowing. But the field had not been cleared. In fact, it was a virgin bush. The servants left him there and returned to the palace. While he was still wondering how to approach the challenge, a multitude of rodents in various species appeared and told him, "Do not worry, we have come to help you." As soon as they had finished saying that, they started burrowing the field, and before sunset, the whole field was ready for planting. Mugabo sowed his seeds and went back to the palace. After 3 weeks, the king went to inspect that field and was amazed. However, the thought that the young man could clear such a large area of land within hours worried him. He wondered how all that millet would be harvested, but he said to himself, "He will be the one to harvest it anyway." When the harvest time approached, Mugabo asked the king for 100 large baskets to keep the millet. The baskets were made and given to him and 100 men to carry them. The king instructed the servants to only carry them to the field and then come back to the palace, as Mugabo alone would do the harvesting. The servants did as they were instructed. On the harvest day, birds of all species came, picked the millet, and filled all the 100 baskets. They ate the rest as their reward. Mugabo sent word to the palace for people to come and carry the millet. When the king saw all this, he got even more worried and told Mugabo, "I have confirmed that you are really a mighty young man. Now I will send you to bring back my royal drums that were confiscated by another kingdom." This time, Mugabo got scared. He even bade farewell to all his colleagues because he thought he would never come back alive. He started feeling that he was very unfortunate to have been named Mugabo the Mighty. He knew that the king wanted him to do the impossible. He recalled that the foreign king had always defeated his own king. All the same, he followed his king's instructions. The journey was very long. After spending several days traveling, he met an old woman and asked her if she would let him stay at her place for one night. The old woman asked the purpose of the young man's journey. He explained to her everything. In the morning, the old woman told him, "Go well, my son. On your way, you will see a homestead that houses 2 girls. One of the girls has a mark on the cheek. That is where you will have to spend your night." Mugabo thanked the old lady and left in a hurry. Toward sunset, he noticed a homestead and saw 2 beautiful girls. One of them had a mark on the cheek. Then he remembered what the old woman had told him. He approached them and sought accommodation. In the morning, when he was ready to leave that homestead, he heard a voice telling him, "Hold the girl with a mark on the cheek and make sure that she does not escape you." Immediately, lightning struck a huge tree that was in the compound. On seeing this, Mugabo's hosts asked him and the girl to leave the homestead right away. They told him to marry the girl if he wanted. Mugabo left the homestead with the girl. It soon became dark, and they were forced to seek accommodation in another homestead. They were allowed to stay there overnight. In the morning, as they were thanking their hosts for having been very kind to them, the girl smiled and lightning struck again. Their hosts got terrified. They asked the couple to pick whatever they wanted from the homestead but leave immediately. Mugabo and the girl decided to pick 2 spears. They left the place and continued their journey. In the evening, they reached the kingdom's palace, where the confiscated drums were kept. They asked for accommodation, and they were allowed to stay there for as long as they wished. Mugabo spent most of his time spying. He wanted to know exactly where the drums were kept. It did not take him long to locate them. He then planned how he would get them out of the palace. He thought the best time to leave the palace was in the middle of the night when everyone was fast asleep. He told the girl to leave first and promised to find her ahead. At around midnight, Mugabo tiptoed to pick up the 2 drums and left the palace immediately. He soon caught up with the girl, and together they ran as fast as their legs could carry them. They kept running till morning. By the time people knew what had happened in the palace, Mugabo and the girl were beyond reach. The king's guards did not even know which direction that Mugabo had taken. They gave up chasing the couple and forgot about the drums. When the couple reached the palace, the king was so delighted that he decided to appoint Mugabo the kingdom's prime minister. Soon, they invaded the kingdom that had confiscated the drums and defeated it. Mugabo served the king very diligently, such that the kingdom prospered and grew more and more powerful.